Welcome back to Behind the Ballot, where politics meets real life. We break down state and federal issues, showing how policy shapes everyday Americans. Engaged, balanced, and informative. That's our promise. I'm your host, Mikkel Jenkins.
Muhammad Alec chiming in as well. Nice to see you, Mikhail. Nice to be on board.
Yes, nice to see and nice to be. And for our listeners out there, me and Muhammad were just having a very good discussion about this. But definitely, if you have not, please, please, please go see the Odyssey in the biggest and most crispiest screen that you can. I rated it a personal 10 out of 10. Muhammad, what was your personal take on it and your rating?
I'd say like MJ's more on it than I am. I'd say like 8.5 out of 10. I'm pretty picky when it comes to when I rate perfect or absolute the best out of the best. But it was good. I was interested in entertaining the whole movie. There wasn't a point where I ever felt like it was boring or I was getting slowed
Mm-mm.
down.
Yeah, no.
And yeah,
Yeah. And now here we are, catching you, making sure you guys are getting caught up with all of the latest news, especially what's going on with Iran, because it has been quiet for, I would say, mediocrely quiet for some time. But
mediocrely quiet. What a word when you're talking about bombing.
I mean, it's because it's said negotiations that have failed to happen because the mediocrity is on our side,
Yeah.
realistically. And as of July 2026, the conflict has entered a prolonged phase of brinkmanship and renewed strikes. U.S. forces have conducted multiple rounds, including a ninth consecutive night targeting command centers, air defense, missile drone production, and maritime assets to protect shipping. Iran has responded with attacks on U.S. and allied positions in Jordan, Kuwait, Bahrain, and beyond. And it's unfortunate that we've actually have seen service members reports of them being killed. I think it's about two individuals that have been
Based off
killed,
the
one
recent strikes,
missing.
yeah.
Yeah, recent strikes. And even there was a report that CENTCOM is they are not showing great transparency with these numbers, as it's now coming out there has been hundreds of US soldiers that have been injured by these Iranian bombs, and total US losses since the war's start are reported in the dozens in some congressional briefings, including aircrafts. And it's just a shame that we're seeing this. We're seeing the, as was speaking to earlier, the mediocrity and the incompetency of our administration being able to formulate some form of a deal. And now we have this continuation, even a widening conflict getting ready to happen, from what the administration has been putting out and stating over the weekend. And Iran's not going to back down. They are going to continue to strike Kuwait, Bahrain, all these other places where we have our military bases and or our missiles located. And it's also sad too that even though this war is going to be widening out with the loss of civilian casualties and our military casualties, um, we very much do not have the stockpile
No,
to
I
continue this at all.
we don't have stockpiles of a lot of things. Now, I know you're
Yeah.
speaking specifically regarding military weapons and ammunitions, but I want to add that our stockpile on oil is at its lowest level in 50, 60 years.
Yeah.
It's we're just not in a good situation. And so not only is the stockpile for the United States going down very quickly, it has the last 6 years actually. There was a big uptick. We started to stockpile heavily when COVID kicked in because oil
Hmm.
was literally like 5 cents a barrel. Why would
And we weren't at war either, so at that point it
literally
was
why
easy to
why would we
stockpile and
not
just.
that I think Trump was the president at the time. Props to him on that. I will say that anybody who wasn't an idiot would see there. If you saw as the head of state that gas was at 5 cents, oil was at 5 cents a barrel, and it's normally trading at $50 a barrel, I would be taking the house and buying the world's oil if I was the head of state. But point being though is we saw a very large increase in the United States' oil reserves in the
Yeah.
2000 in the COVID era, and then that actually saw. Fun fact, MJ, this is how how extreme the United States has
Yeah,
been
I like a
performing
good
in all bits
I
of
like a good fun
politics.
fact.
So we, after COVID finished, we had the highest oil reserves we've had in 50 years. Now we
Makes
have the
sense.
lowest oil reserves we've had in 50 years. That's how extreme the last 5 years have been in terms of politics in America. You can just look at the oil reserves and you think clearly something's been happening recently. And yes, it very much has been happening recently. And so I really think that the United States isn't in a position to continuously mount an indefinite war. And I
Oh
don't think
no.
Trump cares. I really don't think he cares. I don't know what his goal
And it
is.
also comes
I
to a
don't.
point that as much as we push out our allies and stuff, what happens when we try to request, weapons from them?
Yeah.
And some of them don't respond because of the way that we've acted, maneuver, and have moved throughout this war. Whether it's France, Great Britain, the Saudi Arabia, the Middle Eastern countries, who have been heavily bombed by Iran, who have had their our interceptors taken from them and given to Israel instead. Also, shout out Spain for winning the World Cup. I know Israel was pissed about that because
Oh
they were
yeah,
burning their
Spain. Fun
flags.
fact,
Yeah, they were burning their flags, which is absolutely
of
ridiculous.
Iran and Spain, Spain and Ireland have been the two Western European countries that have been very openly and adamantly against Israel's war crimes. So, this is another fun fact. Argentina was the Israeli team of support for the World Cup. You know, colors aside, Argentina is a massive Israeli ally in current standards due to Javier
I would
Milei.
say it's a proxy at this point. It's a
I
proxy
mean,
state.
it's like a middle. It is literally the United States and Israel. United States more specifically, but United States and Israel like puppet in order to see how extreme libertarianism works for a government, and at the same time selling out for
They're
Israel.
like our Israel, but then they're like Argentina's like our Israel, but in South America, basically, is kind of how I would gist the level of relationship and kind of the things that we do. Not on like
Not as
Argentina
extreme.
ain't going out there like militarily and anything like that. They're just our one major ally.
As much as
Same
I
thing with
as
Israel,
much as
but
I hate Israel, they, because of their manipulation and controlling of the West, have propped their economy up with pretty good technological, military, and health and technologically
yeah,
related sectors. Argentina doesn't have shit.
no.
Argentina, and that's the big reason why they are in such a bad position. One Argentinian dollar, and Mikhail, this blows my mind. I think it's so funny.
It makes me think how Argentinians were able to come over here for the World Cup
Oh,
when
it's
the
because they
tickets
already
were
lived here.
so
It's because it was the ones that already lived
expensive.
here. Like the ones who
That
already,
makes that because
yeah.
that makes sense. Because I was talking to one of my friends and coworkers, I was like, "They gotta if you come from another country, you have to convert that currency unless you have someone that's already here that has that currency for you that can just give it to you." You know what I mean? Because if you swap out your Argentinian dollars for America, you're basically gonna be broke, realistically. Like I just but yes, that is a good point that you make that most of them were probably definitely already here and so forth. And it's 4 years. So you take those 4 years to save up after it's already over.
Yeah, I'll say these
Especially in
people
those
knew the
other
World Cup was going
countries,
to
it's a
be
bigger
America for
sport.
years. But point being is to the point is that the United States is in a non-ideal position. I just fact checked myself, and it wasn't a 55-year low; it was a 40-year low in petroleum reserves. And just to further add on to that, though, it just still does prove the point of what me and MJ are trying to say here is that the United States' stockpile in many regards, whether it's ammunitions, whether it's missiles, whether it's defensive
Yeah.
weapons, whether it's petroleum, it's low. It's down
Yeah.
and it's not looking good. Now, if this
We're
wouldn't be too much of an
actively.
issue if we weren't waging a war with one of the main oil exporting countries in the world, but we are waging a war with one of the major oil exporting countries in the world.
Yeah,
Now,
100%.
the reason why this is an issue is because, fun fact, America is, I believe, number one actually in oil production. But we are also the number one users of oil in the entire world, and it's not even a close margin. We use about 2.5x more than China, 2x more than China. And now you might think, oh, double is nothing crazy. We have a fourth the people of China, and we use double their oil. It's we're an oil-based society. And the issue is that now we're going to be seeing people needing to, gas prices are going to go up. The U.S. military is going to need to start, if they actually try to mount an aggressive assault against Iran, they're going to need a lot of oil to go with the ships, to go with the airplanes, to go with everything that goes along with the Humvees, the cars, everything,
Yeah,
literally
literally.
everything we use for the military needs oil. And so it's going to be an issue of, well, if oil prices go up, Iran benefits because they're selling the oil. Now, the issue is then, well, we're going to try to come in there and try to take the oil for ourselves like we did with Venezuela. And Trump has very openly even admitted that the oil in Venezuela is not ours. Now, whether or not you agree with that, the president of the United States is saying that. So it's no surprise to me that he is also trying to do something similar to Iran. Iran isn't
Yeah.
Venezuela. Iran
Yeah,
is
he's not
not
going to easily
Venezuela.
push them over whatsoever. He's not
Literally,
going to push them over
Venezuela was
whatsoever.
a pushover because they don't. One, they're not in one of the most militant areas in the entire world. Two, they're not a country that's been building defense for the last 3-4 decades for the sake of defending against specifically
Yeah.
America. And
Crashing
three,
economy.
and
Like,
three, we control the western side of the Western Hemisphere. We don't control the Middle East, nor were Iran, nor Eastern Asia, Mideast Asia at all.
not
And
at all.
it's a totally different story. And so I think when Trump had that quick, easy success in Venezuela, I really do think that he was like, well, why can't we do that with Iran? You know, he got that PowerPoint from Netanyahu about how close Iran is to a nuclear weapon again. You know, they've been 2 weeks away for 25 years
The
now.
stellar PowerPoint.
Literally, it must have been an amazing PowerPoint. It didn't work on Biden or Obama, nor, I should add, it didn't work on Trump in his first term.
First time. Yeah, the first time
It
didn't
didn't
work
work on Trump the first term. So
Wonder what
something.
changed.
I think a
His
lot of Trump.
donors.
I think a lot of
His
younger Trump
donors.
supporters, even some older ones, the ones that aren't completely brainwashed and dedicated to the Zionist ideology, I think a lot of them are fed up and annoyed with Trump and about what he's doing. And I think a big reason is because Trump 1.0, and we've talked about this. Trump in his
Was so
first
much
term,
better.
totally different person than Trump in the second term.
He was a
Completely different
he was a
ideology.
true blue collar president, and now, and I actually saw this, which I thought was pretty interesting, is that actually young conservatives are actually looking now more towards Richard Nixon
Yeah.
as their Republican compared to like our parents and stuff. They always would say their Republican is Ronald Reagan across the board. Ronald Reagan. Younger individuals today, they're now looking at Nixon, who, yes, Watergate, all those horrible things. But
Watergate
when you
is
look at
nothing
actually
compared to what we deal with on
oh
the
yeah,
normal
nothing
nowadays.
compared to this. But if you truly look at his record, he wasn't too much of a like far right conservative.
He wasn't.
Was
He wasn't
conservative.
authoritarian, right?
Yes, he was like conservative with like a little dribbles of little liberalism here and there.
Yeah.
But he kind of reminds me of like Dwight Eisenhower as well. In the same regards, in a sense, how his stature is and how its stature is improving as we get more presidents and people start, comparing and contrasting.
Yeah.
But I love that they still regard, Reagan as one of the worst, which thank God. I love that they're actually more so looking at Nixon instead of Reagan, because yes, Nixon did have his moral issues, but on a policy wise, he really wasn't terrible.
Yeah.
Where Reagan had good morals, but his policies were freaking horrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'd rather take the latter than the former. But as we're talking about all of this and what's going on, not only underneath of us in South America, as well as over the sea in the Middle East, Rubio, Secretary of State, yes, has now labeled Cuba as a sponsor of left-wing terrorism, and this all comes apart when this all comes after you had that uh, childish speech from Donald Trump about election integrity. And I mean that whole we'll dive into that piece, but that whole election integrity speech was complete garbage, and even the information he put out was complete garbage. He basically, well, I'll talk about it more. But however, Cuba is now being labeled as a sponsor of left wing terrorism. Secretary of State Marco Rubio convened an international ministerial with leaders from over 60 countries to reinforce counterterrorism efforts on far left political violence and terrorism, describing it as a long standing blind spot. He cited a new State Department report which was called Cuba, the Capital of the 21st Century Communism, detailing Havana's espionage, subversion, and influence operations against the U.S. since the 1960s, including ties to weather underground figures, espionage cases like Victor Manuel Rocha, support for local radical protests, and ideological networks. Rubio emphasized Cuba's role in sponsoring virtually every major left wing violent group in the Western Hemisphere and links to U.S. extremism. And it's very interesting that they're going down with this route as we have midterms coming up. But it's this is just once again another try to entice the population to possibly get behind and or to get behind for the attack on Cuba. And I don't understand what we gain here. Like realistically, like what do we gain from Venezuela? Because that oil is going to take a couple years to get refined enough to where we can even use it in the states. What do we gain from Iran? It's like all of these excursions, what are we gaining from them? There is nothing to gain from us going into Cuba, stating they have far left extremists when we have far left and far right extremists within this country. It's a total fail on this administration, truly, and how they have conducted themselves on the global and international stage. And we're just going to continue to see more of this, especially within this Latin America policy as they try to focus on migration, counterterrorism funding, and domestic security. And these debates will go full steam ahead right until the midterms. And we will keep you guys updated on what happens with Cuba and what continues to go on within the Middle East. And now we're going to move on to the domestic side of things, focusing on Trump's election integrity speech. So, President Trump delivered a primetime White House address focused on election vulnerabilities, declassifying intelligence reports and documents. Central claims included China conducting the largest compromise of election data in history, acquiring 220 million US voter files across states with alleged CIA cover up, with their taking place of hacking, buying data in 18 states, and vulnerabilities in electronic voting and ballot systems. He referenced Venezuelan Maduro's regime capabilities in the digital vote manipulation. This speaks to what me and Muhammad have been talking about with that Maduro almost essentially gave up Venezuela so that he could be captured, not killed, and worked out a deal to where he would basically state that Venezuela had some form or some inner workings with the 2020 election. But however, the information that he did put out was complete opposite. Everyone was talking about how the information he put out actually more so gave proof that Russia was working behind the scenes and all of the things that Russia's done in there in terms of influence when it comes to social media, memes, and all those posting and the bots. That was true. And even there was a piece that I had even read that stated that China was actually targeting Biden's campaign, not even attacking Trump's campaign. It was building a report and gaining information on Biden to be used, which was never used throughout the race, but then Trump still won that 2020 election. I mean, he won the election, which speaks to further that this whole election integrity nonsense is exactly what it is. It's nonsense in just multiple ways to try to make it harder for individuals to vote. I mean, he's urging the passage of the SAVE Act, which has passed the House, but it's not going to go anywhere in the Senate. It won't move at all. Thune understands this, and with his as in Donald Trump's masquerading and taking out conservatives that are already in the Senate, they now have They now are not beholden to him, and now can vote however they see fit. And I'm sure for them that's a rock threshold and a higher burden to get through compared to just getting an ID, especially if that ID is going to be free. Securing our elections act is definitely the better way to go outside of Save Act, but Donald Trump is definitely not going to let this go at all. And now moving to the legislative capital agenda for this week. House Speaker Mike Johnson faces significant internal challenges pushing the GOP agenda toward recess. Key efforts include advancing budget resolutions and reconciliation framework to unlock Trump's priorities. Thune has stated that a reconciliation 3.0 could possibly not be in the work, and it may not be actually an appetite for that, but we will definitely keep you guys abreast as I find out some more information on that. There is a farm aid bill actually that would give, funny enough, amnesty to farm workers, to migrants, illegal farm workers.
And I
Mind
just want to add that this does tie
you,
into
yeah,
what Trump has said in the past, and it's a big thing of why you get some of the more extreme right people branching off from him this period, is because when they wanted people to be deported, they wanted literally anybody, everybody who could have been even who was illegal at all to be
freaking
deported.
Stephen Miller's bald head ass.
Yeah, so like they very explicitly said like, hey, we really do want to deport everybody and anybody who's illegal, even if they've been here 20 years and they've been fine and haven't committed a crime since then. Now, one thing that Trump has actually touted, this is back when the ICE raids were being very active and ongoing, was that he said that he purposely was not going to target farm workers in red states. He didn't say it like that. He more specifically said that he is going to go only after blue states specifically to start off, in the way that he was saying that, well, we're going to target things like California, Minnesota, New York, and check and see what we can find there, because they are what we know as sanctuary cities, and higher rates of illegal immigrants are in these states. Now, Trump literally completely ignored the Midwest and more when it came to these ICE raids, because he knew that if he were to start stepping on the toes of these conservative states by deporting a lot of farm workers who are willing to work for less than what the normal American is, they knew that he would have issues politically. Now, this is the issue that we see a lot with Trump, is that a lot of the time he makes these decisions, I mean, like politicians do, he makes these decisions that seemingly are literally just about trying to get the votes or get the public support for whatever he wants to do next. And in this regard, it has not been something that's been going well. And
No.
it still blows my mind, just in hindsight, that we were willing to send billions, 20 billion to Argentina for soybeans. And we weren't willing to give that money to we gave less to our farmers than we gave to Argentina.
We gave them half.
Yeah, literally we gave our people half, you know? It's frustrating. Yeah. That's the easiest way to say it. Like, how does that? Why are we bailing out another country? Why are we? That's the easiest way to say it. We're so far in
debt.
To
think that used to be a Democrat question.
Yeah.
People would ask Democrats, why are we funding Ukraine? Why are we doing all of these other things? Now it's completely turned on its head because of the way that Trump thinks the global world works, and it's the complete opposite of that across the board. And
I think
we shall see. Yeah,
I think that. What's the best
nothing's going to get done. Nothing's going to get done. This reconciliation's not going to pass.
I think that we're about to see. I think we're about to see jack shit get done for the next 2.5, 3 years. Is what I think.
Yeah, these mother effers don't know how to govern whatsoever. As soon as they get a majority, they do one thing. That's it.
Dude, you know how much
it bothers me? Last time it was tax cuts.
You know how much? No, it's not even just tax cuts. It's tax cuts just for the rich. I just want to for anyone who's listening to this. All right, so this is Trump 1.0, and I don't talk. Yep. I really don't talk that much shit about Trump 1.0 because I'll be honest. I was a fan of TCJA. I was a fan of Operation Warp Speed. I was a fan of quite a few things. The guy, I didn't vote for him, nor will I ever vote for him, because I think the words that he speaks is very purposefully toxic, and the way that he does that is just to corral people against the liberals or against people who he doesn't like. And I've literally known people who voted for Trump because they said, "Oh, I hate liberals, even though I don't care about the guy. I despise the liberals." And while I have a whole certain rant I can go on about that, to the point being
Yeah.
is that Trump 1.0, the tax cuts that he gave in the TCJA, he lowered the tax bracket for the bottom 4 tax brackets by 3%. He cut corporate tax rates by 15. He gave a 5x larger tax cut to billion-dollar corporations than in the
Yeah,
working
man.
class. And that's what bothers me about the Republicans. If you're going to say tax cuts, why are you giving all the tax cuts to the rich? And it comes back to the idea of trickle down economics. We know the rich know how to handle money
Oh,
better than the poor do, and if the rich have more money, they'll trickle down to the poor. It doesn't
that's
work like that.
bull.
That's why we had
That's
a
like the whole
man worth $1
argument.
trillion.
Exactly. That's like the whole argument was like if you raise minimum wage, everything's going to cost more. Well, if you look at into places like Costco, Walmart, especially,
Dude, look
they
at
have
Bucky's.
good they have good hourly wages that are way above that 15, and Walmart is actually one of the more cheaper stores. Literally.
Yeah.
Like, so that whole thing that I remember listening to back in college and high school, that we can't raise the minimum wages, everything else is going to get more expensive. It's complete BS, just like trickle down economics. It's all
Yeah.
BS. It's all designed to have you to constantly think in that mindset so that you never want more, basically. You're just okay with what you have, and you think that, oh, these tax cuts that they're saying they're going to help you in some way, but you never truly see it, and
No,
you just
no,
only
dude,
think that you're getting some form of relief.
listen, okay. You know that one meme, that one video of the African politician being like, when
Yes,
there is
yes,
corruption, I am against it, but when I am a part of the corruption, I am all for it. That
yes,
is exactly how I view
exactly.
American
Two things.
politics. It's true. It's literally any politician. It's any politician. But since I'm an American and I pay attention to American politics, I'm going to call it the American politicians. And it is so frustrating because I'll add this. Most Americans overwhelmingly do not understand taxes. It's pretty simple.
God no.
And it's not even like they might understand tax brackets, but then you start diving into the details, itemized versus standard, credits, education expenses, more
Yeah.
donations,
Yep,
special
yep, yep,
write-offs.
yep, yep.
People are just like, listen, I don't care. This is above my pay. This is above my knowledge. I'm going to pay an accountant to do this. And because of that, when people hear news regarding taxes, they go crazy. And because they don't understand it. And this is a perfect example. What I think of is the Trump overtime, no tax on overtime and no tax on Social Security. Because both of those still have taxes. Both Social Security and overtime are still taxed. But then you just say to
Let 'em
someone,
know,
hey,
let
they're
'em
not
know.
taxed now. And literally people be like, great, fantastic. My life's better now because I'm going to get overtime and it's not going to get taxed. Newsflash, it literally still did get taxed. I have my friend, he's a journeyman for HVAC.
Isn't it just the for overtime, like the it's time and a half? It's the half that's
for how
getting
it works
taxed,
for
right?
overtime. You still get the tax when you get the pay. How it works is you're supposed to claim a deduction specific to overtime when you file your taxes. If you don't claim that deduction specific for overtime, you're not taking that money off. So it's literally an extra step in the tax return process that the normal layman doesn't understand nor know. They just pass them off to their accountant to do. For good reason, they make the tax law as complicated as possible for the sole reason they don't want people to be able to properly understand it, nor do they want people to be able to crack into the code of the loopholes like the rich do, because they have the money to be able to afford the CPAs and more to help them hide and shell their money. Fun fact for those listening, there is about $55 billion that are being held, that the United States government considers tax money that is being stored offshore. Meaning, this is just one example, and I'm forgetting the exact tax loophole. I have to get back into it because it relates to something it relates to offshore revenue. And as some of you may have heard before, when a company, like especially a lot of American companies have large international size, large international presence, when you make offshore revenue, even though the American parent company's benefiting from that, if they just say, oh, we didn't make that money in America, we made it elsewhere, you don't pay that tax then for American.
Yeah.
You pay a much smaller tax for it because that offshore revenue gets taxed at the offsite at that country's legitimate tax rate, and then that money that comes into the parent company within the United States, then that is what taxed. But if you're able to expense, if you're able to deduct, if you're able to lower your income or revenue using the tax law in these respective countries, or maybe you just know somebody the right way, you can lower your reportable income and lower your tax your tax bill by quite a bit. So much, quite a bit, that the United States government is estimating that there's about $40 to $50 billion yearly that corporations are not paying by using one tax loophole. Billions that aren't being paid by that one tax loophole. But they won't cut our taxes. They will just give 15% cuts to the corporations. They'll say it's better that we all have higher taxes for Medicare for all. They'll say that, oh my God, okay. To the point being, both sides do this. Both sides will manipulate the tax code to their advantage, to their friends and their beneficiaries in a way that the common people won't understand. Hey, there's no tax on overtime now. There still is. That's a lie, but you're not going to realize it because I told you that there's no tax on overtime. And I had to explain it to my friend T by T. It took like a 15-minute conversation for him to get to the point where he's like, so I'm still getting taxed on my overtime. And I was like, yeah, you're still getting taxed on your overtime. And he was pissed. For rightfully so, but he needed an accountant to explain it to him about how things are working. You don't have an accountant as a friend trying to explain this to you. You're like, well, I was told that I'd have no tax on overtime, and I'm still getting that tax taken out. But I want to see that. I want to see what happens on the tax return.
If they see the light, they see the light. I don't care which way, which form, which way. Just see the light, and the light isn't even that. It's more so like what's actually being done on a policy standpoint, not what's being done on the headline standpoint, and what he's putting out on Truth Social. Oh my God, I that's not in the notes, but the freaking level of corruption with these subscription
paying for early access to his social media posts.
Could you
and his
imagine if Obama did that? $100,000.
This is what, honestly, I'll be honest. This is why I can't stand the Republicans. I agree with their political ideology.
But Obama went to the podium with a tan suit. And y'all wanted to crucify
and these motherfuckers wanted to cry like it was a civil war. It's
like the man wore a tan suit.
This is what I'll say. Me and MJ have our political differences, and MJ's definitely like a traditional blue dog. I'm a mix of libertarianism and progressivism. And with that said, I'm a big believer in tax cuts, less regulations, and isolationism. Not to the point of, we literally don't interact with any countries, but to the point of more honestly, less regulation, less taxes, more isolationism, less forever wars, less involvement in other countries. I agree with so much of this. The actual Republicans do not do that. The conservatives in Congress are anything but that. That's why the term neocon exists, because these people are not conservatives. They believe in lower taxes they believe in socialism for the rich. They believe in forever wars, not isolationism. They believe in more Trump quite literally tried to ban specific flavors of vapes. That is not a small government approach. It isn't. You can say, even as a conservative, if you want to say the FDA should be allowed to ban certain chemicals, okay, that's still a larger government position that the federal government is allowed to do that. If you want to argue state governments are allowed to do that, sure, that's a conservative approach of, hey, the states themselves should have these similar FDAs where they can assess these things on their own standards and think and agree on what they want. California will have much stricter measures than Alabama. But now the conservatives don't care about that. They care about, well, we have the power, so we're going to use the federal government as much as possible to clamp down on our political enemies. Incredibly unconservative. So point being is, if the conservatives actually stood for a conservative ideology, they might get a lot more votes. They might have people
1,000%.
like me voting for them, but they don't. They don't. These people will stand for, the only thing they stand for is Zionism in their own pockets. That's all they stand for. There's no other reason why we've been in the Middle East for 40 years. There's no other reason why people like Zuckerberg, like Elon Musk, like Jeff Bezos, there's no other reason why these people are getting more tax cuts than my mother working her self-employed business. It's because these people, oh my God, there's no reason why we didn't invade Venezuela. There's no reason why we pick Argentina as the country that we're going to have be our number one ally in South America if it wasn't for the fact that we literally, the conservatives literally care only about Israel and the rich. Oh my God. I'm going to keep going.
No, and I completely agree with it because it's absolutely asinine.
That's why I can't stand the hypocrisy. If you actually stood for conservative ideologies, I'd be voting red constantly. But these people don't vote for conservatism. The whole argument about abortion is a fantastic example. I don't agree with abortion. I think it's bad. Do I think the federal government should tell you that you can or can't do it? No.
Hell no.
No.
Nope, not at all.
And like then I'll see the argument of, well, we should have the federal government require all states to allow abortions. I'm like, okay, honestly, I agree with that a bit more. But at the same point, I honestly believe in state power over federal power because the stronger the federal government gets, the more we're going to get in the situation where we can't beat out the central authoritarian power. So we need to diverge any and all power that we can from the federal government. Otherwise, we're going to be stuck in a situation where a politician that we don't like, i.e. Trump, is going to come in and use all power to get rid of whoever he doesn't like. And I just, oh my goodness, it makes me giggle and chuckle when I see conservatives hit the point where they're like, Trump's doing this all. While I like the fact that Trump's doing it, what if a Democrat were to be doing this against me? What if for example, this is a good, Mikhail, I'm talking about that Trump's doing these things and conservatives are for, but if a Democrat were to do it, they go crazy. And so I'm like, well, Trump's doing all these things, XYZ. He's trying to ban certain flavored vapes. He's lowering the tax for the rich, but then not doing it for the poor. He is a very famous example. He is trying to integrate the American and the Israeli militaries. This is just so much. And
yeah, there's just so much.
Just for a basic example, I know so many people who voted Trump who would argue like, I don't think trans women should be in women's sports. And then they vote for a dude who raped a woman. Like, dude, you clearly don't care about women. Like,
he was that's like, it's not like, it's alleged.
He literally got proven. It's proven.
He paid her.
Yeah,
the $5 million. It is
meaning
the president, the executive of our country was found liable. Yeah,
guilty of sexually assaulting and raping a woman. That's exactly what it is. Or the president of the United States was found guilty of raping a woman, and he had to pay her $5 million for emotional and punitive damages. That's why he paid. And so it's like, whenever I hear people saying like, oh, this is disrespectful to a woman, and then you vote for a guy who says you just grab them by the pussy and you smack them however you want, and then you do whatever you want. I'm sorry, dude. This isn't about woman for you. This is about you getting the kind of politics you agree with.
Megyn Kelly, remember that? Bleeding out of her eyes?
Yeah, I hate that.
Or he said bleeding out of some. I was like, bro, like, what?
You know what she said to defend Epstein? She said, well, teenagers are different than children when it comes to pedophilia. And I'll add this. I'll add this. Wait, I'll add this.
Lock her up.
I'll add this.
Lock her up, man. Lock them up.
I do fully agree. Being into children is different than being into like older teenagers. But under the law of the United States, it's a crime. Under the law of the United States, if you're under 18 and you have sex with somebody 19 or older who you're not in a relationship with, even the Romeo and Juliet laws go past 2 years of age difference, and they're only applicable to people in relationships romantically. So that means if you're a 17-year-old messing with a 20-year-old that you're not in a relationship, that's statutory rape. Now let's expand that. If you're a 15-year-old being forced to have relations with a 65-year-old man, yeah, that is statutory rape. Yes, that is rape, even if you don't consider the age difference because it is being forced. And when someone, oh my God, this is why it bothers me so much. Seeing a woman say that as well. I'm like, dude, are you really going to go that far? Are you going to really say, well, it's a bit better because it was 16-year-olds being raped, not 8-year-olds. It's still children by our definition as a society being raped. And you're just saying, oh, Well, because he's a they don't say this out loud. Of course, they don't say it out loud. But if it was Obama doing this, oh, you wouldn't hear the end of it on Fox News. If it was Obama
Oh no,
behind Epstein, you would not hear the end of it.
no, you would not hear the end of it at all. And that's where I constantly hear from my conservative friends in certain ways. That's like, Democrats had the Epstein had the Epstein ball in their court, but the reason that they couldn't do it was because of legal reasons. And there wasn't a bill that was passed that allowed them to release any files, mind you.
I'll criticize
And
the
also, they
Democrats
did
sometimes
not
I criticize
run.
the Republicans. But right now,
Yeah,
Trump's in
I mean,
power. He ran on
really
releasing the Epstein
wouldn't.
files, and he's not doing
Yeah,
it and
that's my
covering
thing.
it
They
up.
didn't run on releasing the
They
Epstein
didn't. You're
files,
right.
like, at all. They
Look,
just said, I would even say that they were there. They were just
act like it didn't
Epstein
exist.
went to jail during Trump's term, was killed during Trump's term, got his deal from Trump's lawyer. So all that information that's out there, take with it as
And
you will on this issue.
to add to that,
But
Mikkel, the big lawsuit against Jeffrey Epstein, which was the suit in Florida that was trying to accuse him and find him guilty of exactly what he's doing now, sexual trafficking, or what he was doing if you think he's dead. Guess who was the state attorney general?
something Pam Bondi.
Pam Bondi was the attorney general when Epstein got a sweetheart deal for sexually trafficking American children.
Was that in,
Pam
like,
Bondi
2019, I
allowed
think?
Epstein to get out of jail free, basically, and not have to rot in a cell. She allowed him to go back to his island. She allowed him to live in New York City. She allowed him to go anywhere. The lawsuit was in Florida. And
Yeah.
she let him go. Guess who's the attorney general of all of America right now? Guess who's decided to not chase on the claims or the charges of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell? Guess what
it,
president put Ghislaine
Lewin-
Maxwell in a more
I forget his
relaxed
last
prison?
name. Is it Lewandowski? Or what's his lawyer's name? And he said that in a congressional briefing. He did say, I'm Trump's lawyer, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, and then he was like, wait, no, I was his lawyer.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy. It's just crazy. But yes, from all of that, it's just the nonsense that we have to deal with legislative and policy areas, to where the Trump administration is falling completely flat, and the House of Representatives is just a madhouse of chaos, where you have the only house that's actually putting up good policy is the Senate. And they have been the bulwark against all of the nonsense coming out of the House, and I hope that they continue to do that. And we will also make sure you guys are constantly updated on all of these legislative developments as they come. And now we're moving to our last and final piece, focusing on Mandami versus Bibi.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani continues exploring legal options to direct NYPD to arrest Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu during an anticipated September UN General Assembly visit, citing an ICC arrest warrant for alleged war crimes and genocide in Gaza. Mandami called Netanyahu a war criminal and confirmed active conversations with the city's law department on NYPD authority. This fulfills a huge campaign promise. And as we all know, of course, President Trump responded forcefully on Truth Social, vowing Netanyahu will not be arrested in the U.S. in any way, shape, or form, while praising Israel's actions against Iran. Legal experts widely, Muhammad, take the rest of this real quick. Yeah. Oh, I don't think he heard me. Regardless. But yes, President Trump forcibly on Truth Social is vowing that Netanyahu will not be arrested in any shape or form, and it's going to be interesting to see if Mondami does keep up with that promise. If he does end up um, arresting Netanyahu, that would be a big move by him. It would have some very huge global impact on all that is going on. And I would love to see that. Honestly, it'd be very huge if he was able to do that in some shape or form. Honestly, so we will definitely keep you guys updated on what comes next in September. Definitely with this visit from Benjamin Netanyahu to New York City. There could be an arrest, there could not,
I don't
but
expect there to be, because I'll add this again. I laugh at this because this is a great example of conservatism not being actually believed by conservatives. If a state governor wanted to arrest somebody for crimes that they committed and they found guilty of, or they found that they should see a court of law, if New York wanted to arrest somebody, the federal government of the United States couldn't say, no, you're not allowed to do that. That's a
no,
conservative approach. State right over federal power. The conservatives
literally,
don't believe in that right now. They haven't
no,
believed
they
in that
don't.
in a
They
century,
just believe
honestly.
in Trump. I mean, I would say actually no. The House just believes in Trump. The Senate is operating very independently, which I very much love.
Yeah.
They're not taking any of the garbage and nonsense that the House is sending over and even taking it up for a vote. Thune couldn't have been a more perfect Senate president for this president currently. And I
Trump
think he's
pissed
doing a great
off
job.
quite literally the wrong guy.
Yeah, I think he's doing a great job. I think Thune is he's moving mountains in what he's truly doing, and keeping in line his rank as well as letting Johnson know and understand that whatever they send over here, it's not going to pass. Needs
Yeah.
the 60. They don't have the 60 because of Trump's crusade with all of the individuals in the Senate who had races and lost to their MAGA opponents.
Yeah. Like, what do they have to
Um,
lose? What do they have to lose now
yeah,
by
they
not
have they
voting
have
for
nothing
Trump?
to lose. They well, what they have to lose is their realistically is at this point, it's what they did have to lose would have been their legacy,
Yeah.
realistically. Now all those individuals, Cassidy, all of them, they can keep that legacy intact and be the beginners that started to break away from this Trump movement, along with Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massey, and other individuals within that party. And you're truly seeing a new form of republicanism going to start to take form, from I think definitely individuals in the Senate side. I know on the House side, Massey and even former Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene are talking about initiatives and various paths forward for the Republican Party post MAGA, which I'm very interested to see what that's going to be, because Democrats obviously had to do the same thing and shed their skin as
Yeah.
well. So it's
I'm
going to be
very
very
interested to
eye
see what the
opening to
next
see.
generation of Republican Party is going to be.
Yeah, it's gonna be very they're I think they're gonna go dive back down to their true conservative values across the board. They're gonna understand that this whole like mirage of Trump was only just those was only just these two terms. He is not going to have a lasting effect, but
He
the
will
effect.
negatively, in my opinion.
Not in a positive way that leaves conservatives and Republicans with a good taste in their mouth.
Yeah. Good way to
But
put it.
yeah, I don't I it's the same thing that happened with Biden. When he left, it didn't leave a good taste in Democrats' mouths to see that him leave things that were pushed, the transgender issue that was so pushed heavily and talked about across the board, and was primarily really focused on with that and immigration, and also his actions in Gaza from the synopsis of the campaign cycle. Um, yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what these two parties form, especially the Republican Party, from what we've been talking about. The Democratic Party, it's really with DCA and the socialist candidates that are breaking the
DSA has been
boundary.
putting in some work.
No, they haven't put in some work, doing some very great things. Bernie Sanders, apparently, leadership had a conversation with him about what he's doing to derail a lot of these mainstream Democrats, and he doesn't care, and I wouldn't care either because they didn't care when
He
he
would
was
have been
running.
president like the
Exactly.
10 years
Yeah.
ago if the Democrats didn't throw him under the bus.
Exactly. So I would, if I'm Bernie Sanders, I would not care
Right,
at
right. I'm like,
all
dude,
to no
what?
shape
You
or
guys are
form.
trying to tell me what to do? No,
I'm like, I
I'm
would
an
be
old
like, this is
man.
what you asked for by not, by having that form of contest with Hillary Clinton and just putting me out to the side. You
Literally leaving
guys
me out to rot so you could get
rejected.
Clinton in.
Exactly. They rejected the ideology that many young individuals had and were um, ecstatic about. Because I was too. I mean, I read one of his books in 2015, 2016, one of the first actual outside of school, actual political books I actually read from front to back. That got me wanting to. Um, Push a lot of his initiatives, and one that I truly think is very good is the taxing on stock trades to bring down the groundbreaking debts of student loans. Because if we were able to bail out Wall Street in '08 and they had no repercussions and were able to just do everything as fine as dandy after that, why can't Main Street get that same level of relief in any form? It's
That's
never
one of
been
the
seen.
arguments that make me laugh the most is when people say, well, if we forgive student loans, who's going to pay it? We owe the money to the federal government. Nobody's paying
Yeah,
it.
either the federal
It's just
government
we're
or
just taking
the
it off the balance sheet as a debt owed. The federal
yeah.
government isn't going to require. If you even look for half a second at the federal government spending, you'll realize nothing's balanced. You realize they don't care. You realize they don't track anything. The Pentagon has lost more than $1 trillion over 25 years. They don't
Hmm.
care about
They don't
financing.
care.
They don't care about proper spending. They don't care about budgeting. So
As long as they get the money, that's it.
it bothers me so much when the moment the idea of forgiving student loans is brought up, and I'm not talking about forgiving private student loans. I feel bad for people who took out Sally Mae loans and more, but I'm talking specifically about FAFSA federal government loans. It
Yeah.
angers me when people are like, well, who's going to pay for it? Buddy, who's going to pay for the tax cuts given to the rich? Buddy, who's going to pay for this war that we're now in that you're agreeing with? Who's
Hmm.
going to, you're not complaining about the rich getting more tax cuts than I would ever get in a year in my entire, I could work for 1,000 years of my current wage and I won't make as much money as these billionaires are supposed to pay in a freaking month. And now you're mad at
Exactly.
me because I'm saying that this very predatory system about student loans, literally shackling the next generation with the 50,000, 30, 40,000 plus dollars in loans is a bad idea. And that the federal government who owns those loans should just say, hey, it's better for society if we just forgive these because they'll be more productive members and we'll get more taxes. You think that's a problem, but you don't think it's a problem to send people into Iran to die and for us to spend millions and billions of dollars? You don't think it's an issue to give tax cuts to the rich because you think you're going to be one of them? You don't think it's oh my God. And this is exactly, I have this issue with everybody. I had an issue when the Democrats who would say your body, your choice. I had an issue when the Democrats were saying you should get the COVID vaccine, guaranteed or required it, because that goes against the idea of your body, your choice. The Republicans are horrible, even worse. This is the number one thing. This is, I'd argue, literally the most hypocritical point every single person talks about. I don't listen to conservatives anymore when it comes to budgeting,
No.
because I'll ask them two questions. I'll ask them, do you think the rich should, do you agree with the tax cuts for the rich? And they will usually say, yeah. And then I'll be like, okay, cool. Clearly, you don't actually you don't care about the financial health of this country if you're fine with tax cuts for the rich. And then two, I ask, what do you think about forgiveness for the student loans? And think, who's going to pay for it? Clearly, you're fine with tax cuts for the rich. Clearly, you're not fine with that same exact benefit for the
Yeah,
working
man.
class. Why?
Yeah.
It is
It's
blood
capitalism for the. It's elevated capitalism for the rich, rugged
socialism
capitalism
for
for
the
the rest of
rich
the.
and rugged
That's it.
capitalism
Yeah,
for the poor.
that's the same.
It's
That's the saying I
exactly
was
so.
looking
When
for.
people say, "Oh, I don't like capitalism," look at the system. But I like capitalism. What we have right now isn't capitalism. What we have right now is capitalistic
Aristocracy.
socialism for the rich, and then literally just fend for yourself as much as
I
you
mean, we're
can for the
edging
middle
on.
class.
I personally, we're edging on aristocracy at that point. Once there is a huge financial drop down, I think that's the only way this goes forward.
It's dude, we're not.
Aristocracy. You have the rich at the top, big huge gap, and then everyone else down at the bottom because middle class is not middle class anymore. The lower class is becoming the middle class.
Yeah.
And it's hard for individuals to truly get ahead in anything, just given how markets are and everything is, especially explosion with AI in the job market. I mean, how expensive education is across the board. It's a whole different view and perspective new generations are going to have when thinking about what America has for them and what are they going to be able to get out of it, because it changes as you move throughout life. Because obviously it's changed drastically for us. When we were in high school, it was the picket fence, 2-car garage, land, all that good stuff. Now it's being curtailed towards, just completely just renting a nice property at that point.
Yeah, there you go.
Having
So
that flexibility to move, not being stuck down in the property taxes and all that stuff. Like back then, we looked forward to it. Now it seems like it's now becoming more of a burden. And that stinks because you lose that level and sense of ownership, which really is a founding stone to America. It's you own it and you pay the taxes on it. Now we're getting very much from that because houses that were 200,000 when we were in high school are now 4 or 5.
and the
And
interest
it's
is
like,
higher. The interest rates
yeah,
are
the
higher.
interest is higher. It's like if you don't have like if you're not with a significant other, it's hard to do everything by yourself. If
Absolutely.
you're not making 6 figures post tax, then God bless at this point. Like seriously, it's hard. It's terrible out here.
Energy bills going up,
How
groceries getting more expensive, cars
yeah,
getting more
rent keeps
expensive,
going up,
phone bills
everything's
getting more
just going
expensive,
up. Yeah.
everything's getting more expensive.
Yeah, everything is getting very, very, very much
And then
more
you hear from
expensive.
some boomer, oh, just, you should just work harder and budget more. Buddy, oh my God. Oh my God.
Get a
I'm sure
second
that's
job
something
or all
that
this
everybody
nonsense that
under
was
the age
easy.
of 50 can agree with. It's frustrating what the older generation who's clung on to their wealth that they received at a fraction of the effort that we have to put in, that they
Mind you,
tell
the
us that we're
reasoning
not
Donald
putting in
Trump,
enough effort.
meaning also the reasoning why Donald Trump will not pass or sign that housing legislation because he wants the other people to keep their housing.
Yeah, fun
Outrageous with
fact.
them.
Also, one of the things that made me laugh the most is when people say they voted for Trump for cheaper housing. Trump quite literally verbatim said, I
He
want
said it's a
houses to
bore.
be more expensive because the people who vote for me will be richer. So everybody who is young and dumb enough to vote for Trump, I'll give you some leeway. We're all young and dumb at times. I've know quite a few dumb people in my life who voted for Trump, and to say that, I will add, that's not my way of saying that if you voted for Kamala, that makes you smart. That's not my way of saying that. I do think that if you voted for either of those two, it's a murky territory, but Trump is definitely worse. If you didn't want to vote for either of the two, you should have voted libertarian or progressive. Now, point being is, though, the current situation that people voted for Trump, I know young people who said they wanted things to be cheaper and they voted for the man for that, and he has quite literally done the exact opposite of it. Literally the exact opposite, saying, I want things to be more expensive because people who vote, the most of my political audience, aka boomers, will be better off. And he's right. They
Yeah, and
will be
mind you,
better
he's not
off with more
even.
expensive houses. We won't
Yeah, no,
be.
they will be, and it's not hidden. He's not running again, so it's like, why even say that?
Right?
You know,
Right?
it's
Like,
like,
what's
why
the
even say
point?
that if you're not even running? What's the point? Why not just pass a good piece of legislation
I think
that
he's
has
delusional enough in
bipartisan?
his old age that he thinks that he can run again and that he's going
No,
to
he's
have to.
100% delusion. It's delusion. It's my favorite. One of my favorite sayings from Star Wars is delusions of grandeur.
Yeah.
Is what
Yeah.
it's literally what it is.
It's in his head.
And
That's all that fills his mind, in my opinion. Power corrupts, man. And he was already a
yeah,
shitty individual.
no, power definitely corrupts. And yeah, basically that's a very good way to put this whole honestly podcast episode in one good thematic. It's definitely that power is corrupt, but it's about how you use it in various ways. And for Donald Trump, it has not been really beneficial for our younger generation.
At
It's
all.
been pretty
We're just getting the
detrimental.
short end of the stick repeatedly.
Yeah, short end stick across the board, and we still got 2 more years of this. So we shall see. But that is all that I have today. I got my dog barking at me wanting to play.
Yeah, that's all I've got as well. You know, you should probably go to check out. Hopefully your dog's okay. Hopefully he doesn't need too much
No, yeah,
attention.
he's fine. He just wants our
He
attention.
just
He's
being
like,
needy. I get that. Little
yeah,
animals usually
he's
like
being
that.
needy. Yeah. Oh yeah, he wants his chewed up toys because I got him a new toy the other day. He chewed it up already. I got him a duck a day before, and I left it in the crate with him today, and he freaking put a hole through it,
Yeah.
and he took all the stuffing out. Mind you, it was stitched. It was like full hard stitched together. Went right through it. So yeah, no more toys for him. He's done.
Yeah, no, I
He's
have to
done.
stop giving my cats catnip because my boy cat's got asthma. He'll cough when I give him catnip. My girl cat will tear into my leather couch like there's no tomorrow.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah, he tries to eat his bed, and I mean, it's ridiculous. He's literally crying for his toys because we took him away.
Oh, what a poor little guy.
No, he's all right. He's
Suffering
got
from
like
first world problems for that
yeah,
dog.
literally first world
Yeah.
problems. But yes, that is all that I had today. Very good episode, and to all those that listen, thank you for tuning into Behind the Ballot, where politics meets real life. We continue to break down policy to show how that affects your everyday, and keep looking beyond the headlines and behind the ballot. And we will soon be adding some promo to the beginning of our episodes. I have two individuals, close friends of mine, that have businesses, so we'll kind of start to incorporate that within our podcast episode as well. So we'll talk more about that offline.
Oh, I'm excited to see that. Thank you all for chiming in, tuning in, and listening in. This is Muhammad Alex signing off alongside Mikkel Jenkins. God bless you all. God bless America. And may you all have a fantastic Star-Spangled Night. Good night,
Yes,
everybody.
have a fantastic night, and be sure to get your tickets for the Odyssey.
Peace
Have a
out,
good night.
everybody.